and welcome to Jets Chaos. I am Jeremy. I bring the chaos. And today we have a special live event. I got a phone call from a very novice Jet fan who had questions for me. And I said, you know what? Why don't you ask me these questions on air? Nah, I can't lie. It was his idea. He said, can I ask you some questions on air? And I said, sure, you can ask me questions on air. And that person is my brother Lee. What's up, brother?
Yo, I was watching your video yesterday, I think it was, or the day before, and you mentioned that the Jets had a lot of money and there were some free agents that we maybe could sign that could help the team. So I was hoping you could get more detailed about that. How much money do they have? And what's your number one? What's your number two? Yeah.
Okay, so it's as far as how much money they have, that's a more difficult, complex question because traditionally we just look at the contracts that they sign. Like we all do the math of how much money they have, right? We
Yeah.
say, okay, we cut these guys, like we had 8 million, like 6 million, and then we cut these guys, and you do the math. But it's not that simple because when you sign these deals, they're not paid out evenly in scale. There's signing bonuses. Sometimes it's less, and the contract is more top heavy later on. So it's hard for fans to really gauge the exact number.
Yeah.
Website that cut that over the cap. Now, what we do know is the Jets were at a point where they were going to bring in Tyreek Hill and have to pay him. I think the first year of the contract would have been, it was an average 30 million, but it would have been like 25 million. So we were going to have to make that work somehow. I know that we have a solid 8 to 10 million. That's very like blatantly out there. Like there's no question we got 8-10 million that carries over to next year if we don't use it. And I believe depending on who we sign, it might mean cutting a player. So for example, if and this is the first answer to your question, you said, who might we sign? There's a guy, defensive tackle from Cincinnati. His last name is Juniga. I think I'm saying his name right. He's very good.
To me, but okay.
Yeah, he's very, very good. What happened was he got injured at the end of the year. He signed a very big, lucrative contract with the Chicago Bears and failed his physical.
Wow.
Now, we had him in for a couple of days. If he's healthy, he would be that run, like he'd be really great next to Q Williams because he's a run-stopping type of tackle. He's a tackles for yards for loss kind of guy. He's a real guy. I mean, he's a real guy. Probably it would be an interesting threesome to have like Quinnen Williams. JFM is going to be moved back to the middle now because we got edge taken care of and he's better on the inside. But he's more of a pass rushing. So I think like on third down, you'd see JFM and Q Williams in the middle, like set up more for pass rush. But I think on first down, second downs, running type downs, Juniga would be an interesting addition with either Q Williams. Solomon was a guy that they signed. And we don't know how the rookies are, like the rookies from last year. Marshall, we don't know how good he is and how much they think about him. But anyway, that's a guy that I think we would sign. But how I started this point was if we signed him, we would most likely cut Sheldon Rankins. And that would take a bunch of money. I think 4 or 5, maybe 3 to 4 million in cap space. So let's say we gave Juniga 5 or 6 million. We would gain. We get most of that covered by.
He was getting how much per year?
I'm sorry.
He was getting how much per year?
Oh, he was gonna get like 10, 11 million. I think it was.
And he failed his physical because he got injured. There's nothing he could have done.
He had not recovered from his injury enough to pass the physical.
For him, man. That's
bad. It really just shows this is kind of what the Jets organization used to be. It shows it's an embarrassment to the Chicago Bears that they had just jumped out and signed this contract and didn't do enough research or didn't, to even realize that he was injured. What's your injury? Get doctor reports. I mean, it's just embarrassing. It's kind of what would have happened to the Jets years ago. We're hoping it appears that those embarrassing days are behind us. So
that'd be great. Yeah. So I guess we can make an assumption that we have 10 to 20 million or could get 10 to 20 million by doing cuts. So we could afford a few good free agents. So who's your number one pickup here? Who would you go for, and what would you be willing to pay them?
Well, and I'll say more than the player. I don't know the player well. There's a guy Reef. He's a swing tackle. That was a cap casualty. So he's a free agent. He would be like kind of like the Morgan Moses signing last year. He's a guy who you can trust to start at tackle if somebody gets hurt. Not a star, not somebody you want
Yeah.
to be the starter, not the guy, and that's not your goal unless you're a team with a very bad offensive
So
line.
depth. He's a depth play, right?
He's a depth play for some teams, and he's a starter for some teams. Like there are teams. Well, it's actually hard to believe that a team like Chicago, like the Bears, why aren't they trying to sign him? Maybe they are, like because there are teams that have horrendous offensive lines that would actually, this guy would be a help to them. But for us at this point, obviously with Fant and Becton, this guy would definitely be a bench guy, be a swing tackle. He'd come in on either side. He could play either left or right. And he'd be the number one tackle off the bench the second we signed him. And he'd be somebody that we could reasonably trust. Not a guy we would want. We wouldn't want one of our tackles to suffer a long-term injury. But if somebody got banged up and was going to miss 2 to 3 weeks, we easily could feel that we could still win and be competitive with this guy Reef as our tackle.
Yeah, and I'm excited about Becton. And I saw a press conference with him yesterday, the day before, and he had a little symbol and it talked about all the things people are wrong and say about him. And one of them is injury prone.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying he is. I'm super excited about him coming back, but maybe he is injury prone. Maybe he comes back strong for half a season, gets injured. It'd be nice to have somebody to allow the Jets to pick up any positive momentum on the season they've been having.
Yeah, and I think there's two reasons to worry about Becton, and that is historically through his life, he's not injury prone. Like in college, he only missed one game, all of college. But he did have to come out of games his first season, his rookie season. He was good, but he was getting banged up, a few different things, and it was nothing crazy.
Yeah.
All right. The injury that happened to him last year has nothing to do with him. Right. I mean, not his fault, has nothing to do with him. So, anybody who would have been in that situation, the same injury would have happened. I think the second fear, though, and that is legitimate, that's not his fault, is just, is the knee really going to heal?
That's my concern.
Yeah.
Right. That's something that he was talking about even last year. It was kind of better, but not better enough to do what he needs to do to play at full strength or even a reasonable strength. So that's something that makes me nervous.
Yeah.
I'm super excited to see him go crazy, though. I mean, it would be fantastic,
I love the chip on his shoulder. Some people are like, oh, does he really need to wear the shirt? It's like, yeah. A lot of people talk a lot of crap about him. He's had to sit at home. They read social media, they see it. And it's like he's 23. You don't think he's going to get insulted that this guy's worked his tail off his whole life? And apparently he's had it his whole life.
Yeah.
Like he's been called a freak. He's been called fat and overweight and lazy. He's dealt with this his whole life.
Yeah.
So, I'm just saying, I think Becton has a chip on his shoulder, and I think that he's wearing a shirt that says it. That says, "Yeah, I have a chip on my shoulder." And
well, he said a couple of times I've heard him say that he's going to make people pay for their remarks.
Make them eat their words.
I'm excited about that. I'm super excited about that. Yeah. Eat their words. Eat their words. I love that. I love that. So number one would be.
I think it's the most important thing right now because swing tackle, because that's to me, of all the injuries, and it's close. There's another one that would really hurt us, but of all the injuries, that would end the momentum.
Yeah.
If Becton or Fant went down early in the season, game 2, game 1, game 3, for 10 games or the rest of the season, if something like that was to happen, knock on wood that it doesn't. Right now, the way we stand, that could shatter everything we're talking about, because you can't have a weakness at tackle. You just can't.
Yes.
Like it would affect the run game. And we all know once you
What-
take away the run game, now they don't have to put as many people in the box, and now you're going to make it harder for Zach, and he's not going to have. We're going to go back to he might not have enough time.
Yeah, we're talking about a second-year quarterback, and we want him. Part of his progression has to be that he has a couple of seconds to execute. So we can't do that to him.
Right. So it's, and right now the guys we have they're not, for the long term, they're not trustworthy enough. And right, people will say Max Mitchell, he was a 4th-round draft pick. I don't care what round the guys drafted in, by the way. It doesn't even matter to me. I mean, who cares what round they're drafted in? You and I have been watching football as fans together for over 40 years, and we both know that great teams are built with a lot of great 3rd, 4th-round draft.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, you remember the New York Giants, right? I mean, all those guys.
Yeah.
The bulk of that team was 3rd, 4th round.
That's sometimes how you end up turning from a playoff team into a Super Bowl team, is when you get lucky with a couple of late rounders that just kick ass.
Yeah. And Max Mitchell has a nice resume. He's fundamentally very sound. But he's a rookie. There's no way we want a rookie coming in and putting our faith and our trust in a rookie. And then the other guys, some Jet fans will get annoyed. They like some of our backup guys. They have some affection towards them because they've been around for a little bit. But the reality is they're not guys you want starting over a long period of time. So to me, it's the most sensitive part of the team is our backup tackle situation.
Yeah. We got to give Zach protection. And what I think is amazing, and maybe you have seen something different, but I've seen Zach Wilson speak a few times. I know this isn't about him, right? We're talking about getting new talent, but I've never heard him blame the OL. I've never heard him blame them. I've heard him blame his inexperience only. So I'm pretty excited that we have somebody that's going to stand up and take it on himself, whether he does well or not.
It's always nice to have somebody who takes accountability. And that's one of the things I love about the culture of the team, because they were arguing, the play against Tampa Bay that would have sealed the game, the 4th and 1. They were fighting, like Zach came out and said, it's my fault. I should have went the other option. I should have known that's what they meant. And LaFleur came out and said, no way, it's my fault. Because I did not communicate it well, that it was an option and that he had the choice to give it to Berrios. And then Saleh came out and said, it's my fault because I'm the head coach. And everybody was taking accountability, and they were doing it not just behind the scenes. They were doing it publicly, taking that accountability. It's a great culture when that happens. That's part of being, to me, greatness comes from that. People who are willing to take ownership, accountability, and that's what's going to help them grow.
You did the show where they talked about the Jets maybe getting the 1st pick next year, which means worst record in football. But I have to say, I've never seen such exciting press conferences. Every single player talks about the locker room, talks about the talent, talks about the desire to make it happen this year, and the belief that they can. They all feel that they're awesome. I've as a Jets fan, now I was very young during the Namath years, but I've just never been so excited about the potential from where we were to become a great team. Very excited.
Even the most negative Jet fans that I know, and when I say negative, I don't even mean it in a bad way. I mean the most realistic or grounded or been beaten up enough times. Even though the ones that stay calm and don't get excited,
they see the glass as half empty because it's been half empty for 20 years.
Right, and they rightfully want evidence. They're like, show me wins, right? Even those Jet fans that aren't getting as excited, I don't think it's accurate to say that we're the odds-on favorite to be the worst team in the NFL. Like, I don't even think they would agree with that assessment. I think it's a ridiculous assessment that was meant because we have a very, very big fan base with a very big presence in social media, and we're the fun team to attack. You get a big reaction, right? Something negative. If I wanted something with a lot of views, really, on this channel, if I wanted to get something with a lot of views, I could literally write, the Jets will only win 3 games, and here's why. And if I did that, I would get tons and tons of views.
I could say that I'm extremely confident that they're going to take a step up in wins. I don't know how big it's going to be. We've made predictions on past shows, but they're taking a step up for sure.
Yeah, I can't look at the roster. We did this last time. We had a show like this. Let's look at the roster from 18 months
Yes.
ago and look at the roster today.
Yes.
It's impossible to say that on paper.
Yes.
On paper, it's impossible to say that it's not a significant leap.
I'm going beyond paper. I'm telling you, when I watch the press conferences, when I watch these players speak about what they believe and what they feel, and that counts for a lot. You don't see guys coming up and saying, "Yeah, I should be the starter, or I should be paid more." You know, they're all saying whatever it takes to win. I mean, the locker room seems so strong that has to translate to something.
Yeah, even Becton with like the chip on his shoulder when they said left or right tackle, he said whatever.
He also said in college he played both. He'd switch off in games.
Yeah. So he was sitting there literally assuring the fans, no matter where I play, I know how to play there. So don't worry about it. Like he's not worried about it. He's not worried about it.
Exactly. Fans are worried, but he's not. Let's play some ball, baby. Let's play some ball.
Yeah, stick me on the left, stick me on the right, whatever's better for the team. Let's go. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I think a number of Jets have talked about the fact. I don't know why we're talking about this instead of what we came here to talk about. But a number of Jets are talking about the fact that they certainly want to start and they believe they should, but they're just fine about being a competitive battle to see who actually gets to start. They're fine with it.
The attitude is you have to earn it.
Yeah,
I have to earn my spot, and if I don't, then I don't. And there's a lot of over exaggeration about starting versus contributing and getting a lot of play. Like especially we could talk about later in the secondary, the one place where we don't need to worry about free agency, but there's a lot of, Bryce Hall. How can you keep him on the bench? It's like, who says he's going to be on the bench?
No,
Bryce Hall's going to get a ton of snaps. He's going to get a ton of snaps.
And there was, I heard Salah talking about how you rotate people in and out. You don't want people tired at the end of a game, especially. You want to pace them the entire game so you can play with whoever you want to play with at the end of a game and make sure the right team is in there for the big downs. Yeah. I mean, these guys have it together. They have a plan.
Yeah. They definitely do. It's funny how people overreact and misunderstand some of the things that they say, but they clearly have a plan, and it makes total sense. And I'm looking forward to that blend of players. Like you're going to see. It's impossible to track during the game because it happens so fast. But every once in a while, the other team's going to drop back, and you're going to see a deflected pass or a good defensive play by Bryce Hall, and you're not even going to know he was in the game. Yeah. But there he is making a play because that's the way it's going to be. There's, they come in and out. And you don't even know who's in making plays. It happened last year with Pinnock at safety. One time they was just like, all of a sudden he made a play and they go, yeah, playing safety, Pinnock. I go, Pinnock's not a safety. What's going on here? So it's no name that they call out is going to surprise me. They're
another thing that Ken, totally off topic, but I was listening to Zach speak about the offense, and the way he was talking about it this year was somebody who really has learned and really understands what they need to be doing. It's just so exciting to see that he's learning and that he knows what he's supposed to learn. There's this old saying, I'm going to get it wrong, that at first you don't know what to do, so you certainly don't do the right thing. And then you know what to do, but you don't do it right, but you knew you should have done it. And then you know what to do. And sometimes you start to do it actually right, but you have to think about it. And then you're doing what's right without even thinking about it. It's just naturally to do what's right. And he's progressing up that chain.
Yeah. The best example of when people say, well, what's the difference between this player and that player? Last year before the season, and this guy very well, we watched him together. Ryan Leaf, is known as one of the biggest bust quarterback picks, in history.
Horrible.
Said,
I was a Charger fan when it happened, so it was really bad.
Because I don't see the big deal about Zach Wilson. If you look, his numbers in college aren't that different than mine. First of all, that's not true. Zach Wilson had so much fewer interceptions than Ryan Leaf did in college.
Yeah.
But aside from that, The biggest difference, if you want to say, well, what's the difference between Ryan Leaf his first few games and Zach Wilson his first few games, is that Ryan Leaf cried like a little baby and pointed fingers and blamed everyone but himself.
Yeah. He had
Zach
no
Wilson,
character. He had no
no
character.
character, no
Yeah.
character.
Yeah.
And he still complains about it. He still talks like a bitter person. He's always been a spoiled brat his whole life.
Yeah.
And Zach Wilson comes out and never pointed his finger at another person ever.
And his spoiled brattedness is why other teams didn't like jump all over him. And it's not like he got taken by another team and had an amazing career.
Right. He never got a second chance.
Yeah.
Because nobody wanted him in their locker room. So, there's no comparison.
Okay. Let's go.
move on.
Let's go. Number 2, second free agent you'd go after. Oh, and how much would you pay?
Reef, backup tackle?
Yeah.
I would say 3 to 4, 3.5, 4 million.
So plenty of money left afterwards. Plenty of money left. Long-term contract or short-term?
I mean, that's what they might be fighting over. I mean,
Yeah.
I know JD maybe guarantee, like maybe do it 2 years, but guarantee 6. So then it costs us like, a couple million if we want to release him, if in case something happens in the draft or we bring in someone else, or Max Mitchell takes the next step. I know that we wouldn't want him long term.
Yeah. You want to do better, or you want to star if you can get it.
We want to.
You need people that are just solid on your team just to stay under the salary cap.
Yeah. So I mean, but we'll see what it's going to take. But I certainly wouldn't go into, because people are saying, "Well, we'll pay him like we paid Morgan Mosley," but Morgan Mosley came in and ended up well. He initially wasn't going to be the star. Well, actually, people predicted he was going to win the starting job over Fant. People thought he was going to win the starting job over Fant. Look, if it was 1 year and we went to $4.5 million, I wouldn't complain.
Yeah,
it's better than not getting him at all, or not getting another.
But you're okay with like 3 threes, right? 3 by 3 or something.
Oh yeah. Sure.
Yeah. Right, number 2. Who's your second?
My second concern is not for the same reasons as everybody else.
So you're choosing people based on the Jets' concern rank, not based on the people available rank.
That's correct. That's correct. Right now, it's about the pieces, and I'm thinking about the Jets' history with luck and people getting injured.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, where's the other injury that could hurt us the most? What's the other? Quarterback, there's nothing you could do. And as a matter of fact, I think we've done an amazing job with Flacco and White. I think I feel perfectly comfortable that we're now that totally different than last year. We're totally equipped to say that we've made an effort to say, to get backup quarterbacks that can keep us competitive.
So before you even say it, so you're not looking to fill in a major gap anymore? Like there was a time when you felt maybe at linebacker or maybe at safety that you needed to definitely fill a gap.
There's a guy I would say, I mean, and we're going to get up to the defensive tackle that we were talking about.
Okay, let's go for your number 2 when we get there. Yeah.
But okay, so the second place where I'm concerned is linebacker. Not so much starting linebacker, or a little bit, because there are plays where we go 3 linebackers. A lot of times we were playing like a 4-2-5, but we are going to play a 4-3. And I'm concerned about who our third linebacker is. I am not as concerned as other people about Quincy Williams, the guy we used to call the weaker or the bad Williams.
Yeah, the surprise Williams. That was a surprise Williams.
Yeah, he look, the poor play that he was responsible, because he
not
did
Quincy
both.
Jones. Not Quincy Jones, Quincy Williams.
Quincy Williams. Adams, I usually say.
Quincy.
So
the president.
I think, I think that Quincy his negative plays were because he wasn't in camp and he simply made wrong decisions. But his athleticism, when he made the right decision, he was lighting people up.
Yeah.
He was, I mean, if you watch the highlights of last year, there's a YouTube video out there that says all the Jets highlights. He's in it a lot.
Yeah.
This guy made a lot of big plays. So if you teach him and he learns the system, and the offseason was studying hard and working, and his brother's on the team, so maybe they go over the scheme and they talk about it a lot. I think with a full offseason, Quincy Williams,
I'm glad I made you say it.
has the potential has the potential to be a very, very solid linebacker. But now here's my fear. My fear is if CJ Mosley gets hurt, I'm tired of hearing about Sherwood. Like, I know that they think he's good. It's totally unproven, and he's coming back from a torn Achilles. We don't even know his status, his health.
But also, there's going to be rotations. Everybody's playing.
Right.
Yeah, there's going to be rotations all game.
So even if Sherwood's healthy and he starts, and let's say the three linebackers are C.J. Mosley, Sherwood, and Quincy, you're still going to rotate guys in. So you still need a linebacker to come in and be part of the rotation.
And someone's going to get hurt for sure.
Yeah. And then we got a young guy we drafted that people are excited about this, and there's that. But the point is, Nasaldine, who but barely played a snap, I don't trust any of it. A guy that I like to come in and play. So when you say, I'm not saying just backup, just depth, but also part of the rotation.
Yeah.
And is there in case of an injury.
Because I thought your number one was going to be linebacker, so I'm not surprised. I mean, I feel that's where we could take a notch up and be better.
Yeah. The reason it's offensive line, though, is just because it's so rare for an offensive line to get through a season without an injury.
You're right.
And it's so important to the team. So Riley Reiff, to me, is...
You don't have to up-talk offensive line to me. For me personally, I think that's the most important part of the game because it lights up your offense if you have one that's solid.
Yeah. So number two is that linebacker. Quan Alexander seems to be the guy. I don't know that there's going to be a lot of cuts, like there's guys released and they're salary cap casualties. So it won't necessarily mean they're being released because they can't be really good and be a contributor. It could be that a team is just making a decision saying, I don't want to pay $7 million, $8 million, whatever the guy is. We got a young guy who's looking like the gap is not that wide.
Yeah, you have a 2-year guy or a 7-year guy. There's a $5 million difference in salary, but there's only a 20% difference in quality of play or something. Yeah.
Right. And suddenly you get a starting level quality linebacker that's out there. So whether it's Alexander, whether it's somebody else, I would like to see another experienced, proven linebacker get onto the team.
How much are you going to pay? How many years? What's the breakdown?
Again, it depends. Did we sign Riley Reiff? How much do we have left? But I mean,
that's some left. You're definitely going to have some left.
It's another $3 to $5 million type thing. Because a guy $7 to $8 million gets cut over salary, he's going to take a cut. He's probably not going to get 7 to 8 from somebody else. And there's not a lot of teams with money right now.
Yeah.
So we're in a good position. There's not
I
a lot
can easily say it's affording to get 3 or 4 players in that range.
Oh, it's very possible.
Yeah, even a cut 5.
Right. Especially if one of those players means cutting a guy you get Janiga, you cut Rankins, I mean, so there's trade-offs.
Yeah.
It's so that would be my number 2.
Yeah.
Is bringing in that linebacker. I don't know Quan Alexander thoroughly. I know a lot of people threw his name around. He was in camp, he was at Jets One Drive, so people got excited about it.
Yeah.
I'm not an expert on him, but he's experienced and he's a guy you could trust out there. He's not going to be like a complete bust out there and make us a very weak team.
What's the point of getting him if he would?
Well, exactly. I mean, that's the point. I mean, you want to make sure the guys you bring in have some competency. They have to be
at least better than the people you have
that
would come in otherwise.
Right. And we drafted, I'm forgetting his name, that's just escaping me. We drafted not drafted. We picked up an undrafted free agent, a guy was from Division II. That's why he was kind of overlooked by the NFL for the draft. But I think he played for Middle Tennessee State or something. He was very dominant, very smart, and it's the kind of guy that it's like throwing a dart. But if he translates to the NFL, he could end up being a very solid guy.
Yeah.
I don't think he's somebody ready to play in the NFL this year. I mean, he's a developmental guy. So.
Okay, number 2 linebacker. Number 3.
So number 3, it's the reason it's number 3 of the other 2 is because it's not a position I think we need help in. I think it's probably where we're a strength. It goes to the words of Saleh and Joe Douglas. Anytime we can make the team better, Oh yeah, thanks. That somebody in the chat told me DQ Jerry Queen Williams is the linebacker I'm talking about that
Okay,
we really like.
another Williams.
Another Williams, isn't that going to be great? So it's another guy I could call
It's a
Adam.
common name.
Yeah, I'm just going to call him Dairy Queen. But anyway,
Every time he does something big, we'll have to do an ice cream.
yeah, exactly,
An ice cream covered in hot sauce.
exactly. But both our GM and both our coach have a philosophy that when you can make your team better, you make them better.
Yeah.
Right. And they might see Janigua, if he's healthy, we talked about him before, as a step up or an upgrade from Sheldon Rankins. It's possible they would keep Sheldon Rankins and not cut him and keep and sign this guy. Right. If we don't throw the money anywhere else, we might have the cap space to do it. The reason I would support the move, even though he's not, defensive line might not be the glaring need, is if he's healthy, the quality of player. He would make the team better.
And how much would that cost?
That's why I think he's not a Jet right now.
Yes.
He had a pretty juicy contract. I think he might be over $5 million. I don't know. I mean, again, he might get stuck taking $5 million for a prove it year, because there's very few teams with cap flexibility. So it's just hard to bring him in, and it's not.
So the Jets really have to go shopping here. They have to, because they have money, and they can maybe get people for a year, and they don't really care about the money. As long as they stay under the cap. Let's go. Make this year as good as we can make it.
Yeah. And remember, the Jets, I mean, you could, like we were saying, it's like about $10 million. We don't have to cut anybody. I think that that other NFL teams are less emotional. Even we are. I mean, there isn't a pecking order of position and importance. For us, we value defensive line very heavily. A lot of teams, their defensive tackles are they play a 3-4, and they just want big guys that will plug the hole and take their space.
Yeah.
And do their job in their space. So the demand for defensive tackles is not nearly as high as, let's say, wide receiver. Wide receiver pops into the market. Oh my God, right? Right now, it's the hottest entity, there is. An edge.
I have to say something about wide receiver even before you go to edge. Okay, I just have to say this. I used to be a San Diego Charger fan. Well, I'm a San Diego fans. I still would be, even though I've moved to Vancouver, Washington. But they moved to LA. I heard a rumor, though, that now they're talking to Dallas, Fort Worth, met with the Chargers. Yeah. That team is all about, how can we make an extra $5? They'd move. They don't care about their fans at all. But when I was there, and when Rivers was in his prime, anybody they brought in as a receiver would have monster days. They had injury after injury after injury. They were bringing in people from wherever they could get them. Rivers would hit 7-8 targets a day, game. Touchdowns for any target, long passes. A lot happens if you have the right offensive line. That's all I'm going to say. You make your offensive line strong. You have a solid quarterback. I think Rivers is a great quarterback. They're going to hit any good receiver. You don't have to spend too much. All right, I'm done.
Yeah. I'm done. I mean, look, so there are some that could be a bigger difference, bigger different makers than others.
Yeah.
But someone's asking if we're twins. We're not twins. There's a 7-year difference between us.
Who do you think is older? That's the question.
Who do you think is older? There is another comment about, by the way, Fisher, being available. Kansas City Chief, all pro tackle. He got injured and the Chiefs let him go. And if he's healthy, the only reason I would have no problem if they sign Fisher, as a backup tackle. Is he willing to be a backup? Because he might not have accepted that he's a backup tackle, and that's important. You can't have a guy on the team that's not happy because he thinks he should be starting. We were talking about that. That's the culture of the locker room. But if he did come to our team and was okay being our swing tackle, I'd be very happy and I would be very accepting of it. The reason I don't think it's going to happen is because, again, I don't know if he wants it. He might cost too much. He might want too much money. And thirdly, he wasn't at our headquarters that we know of, whereas Riley Reef was.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm not talking about Fisher, because now look, they do a lot of things very sneaky. It's very, very possible that they're talking to Fisher and we don't know it.
Okay, so we talked about 4 players, really, or 4 positions. I'm still surprised that you haven't mentioned safety. Is that number 5, or am I going to have to keep waiting?
No, it would be number 5. So here's the thing. I mean, look, if there was a better safety out there available, I would say get him before you got Juniga, before defensive line. I don't know of any safeties right now that are left out there that are really, I guess, exciting us for what we have. So I think that there's a little bit. I'm not saying it's completely overblown, but I think the panic over safety for the Jets is slightly overblown. Okay, because here's the thing. We have one very, very solid safety, like without question, right? Who might be top 3 in the NFL box safety in Whitehead. Okay, a lot of people, he's ranked higher, and some have him ranked higher than Jamal Adams as a box safety. So we have that right now. There's this one other spot. Now, something you could argue is a weakness of the team is the other spot is not a star, or at least it's not a strength, but we don't need depth in that other spot because there's a lot of guys in camp that are very competitive that prove themselves trustworthy. So it's not a spot where if somebody gets hurt, we're dead, because we're going to have a bunch of guys. They're just not stars. Now, LaMarcus Joyner, who's the likely favorite to be the starter, we have to understand about him. And he's a question mark. There's a question mark there for obvious reasons. Before he became a Raider, we'd have no worries right now. Very, very good safety.
Yeah.
He's a very good safety, a great coverage safety. He could help the cornerbacks when, he can take over, cover a linebacker, whatever you need. He's a very strong, very good safety. Now, the problem was he went to the Raiders and they tried to convert him to a cornerback. So he went 2 years of not impressing anyone. Okay, so then we get him and he gets hurt for a year. So that's 3 years removed since we've seen him play very good safety.
Yes.
Plus the injury. There's a question mark. If he's healthy and he comes back and he's anything like the safety he was, we're fine. As far as starting, Whitehead and LaMarcus Joyner, no worries. The other thing, now let's talk about the depth. Jason Pinnock was a guy that we drafted as a cornerback. They moved him to safety last year. The question mark on him is not his play when they moved him to safety. He actually played really well. If we were guaranteed that he could play at the level he played against Tampa Bay, the main big full game that he had, we wouldn't be even having this discussion. The problem and the question mark with him is the sample size is so small.
Yeah.
That's the problem with him. But when he got the opportunity, he played well. And he proved that we could bring him in and play him in that spot.
What we've talked about before, I'm just going to say, is that we have a lot of cornerbacks, right?
Yeah.
And so there's quite an opportunity to do that again, or to, just to play it differently, right?
Yeah, because there are some people who say Bryce Hall could move back and be a safety.
Yeah.
Coverage safety. And they might rotate him in. You might see him in that role that when we play the 2-5, you might see him back there. They don't look at it traditionally like vanilla defenses.
Yes.
They're just bringing guys in and saying, this is your zone. This is your spot. This is your guy.
Yeah.
So it's like they could bring Bryce Hall and stick him anywhere on the field and say, this is your area. This is your space. But going back to the safety situation, you got LaMarcus Joyner, you got Pinnock, who, like I said, is looking okay. And then you can't forget Ashton Davis. People won't want to give up on Ashton Davis. But the reality is Ashton Davis's rookie year was riddled with injury and horrible coaching.
Yeah.
Last year was kind of his rookie year in the sense of experience and getting, especially this system.
Well, it's a totally
Uh,
different system. Yeah.
Okay, so I say Ashton. Someone's saying Ashland. Maybe it's Ashland. I don't know, but anyway,
You're not one for words.
I'm not one for word. Here's a guy who was getting better each week last year when he was playing. He was getting better. He made some mistake and this is one of the guys that Jet fans love to pick on. Makes a mistake. He's awful. We can't live with this guy. And it's ridiculous.
Hey, Jeremy, I just want to remind you, I've heard you say things like that.
Well, that's the old Jeremy.
The old Jeremy.
So, and Dom is saying Hall is a boundary cornerback. He'll see a lot of reps there. And I believe that. I don't think Bryce Hall's going to be moved to safety. I'm just saying that people have talked about those kind of things. I don't think they have to because Ashton Davis is, now I'm going to say Ash Davis, he's a guy that people have not given enough of a chance to. He's going into year 3. He barely had a year 1. He was improving in year 2. I know my friend Grandizer's a Miami fan. He wanted him desperately.
Yeah.
So I am not giving up on him, and he's definitely depth if he doesn't start. If LaMarcus Joyner is good and you have Davis back there and Pinnock back there, now you have depth, right? And then Elijah Riley came onto the team. No offseason, to learn the scheme. They love this kid from Philadelphia. Joe Douglas knew him from there. And he played okay. Again, do I want him to be our starter? No. Was he Redwine? Redwine's the guy who fell down and gave the easy touchdown to Carolina and pissed us all off, right? So it's not that. It's not a guy that's like disgusting to have in there. So I don't think safety is that much of a weakness. I think it's a position we can improve, but there's no one in free agency that's going to do that. When I say when we talk about safety and improving in the safety position, we're talking about free agency next year or draft. We're talking about bringing in a guy who could potentially be, top 10 in the league safety. But there's no one out there right now that I could see us signing that's any better than the depth we're talking about right now.
Now, did you move your prediction for the Jets to 10-7 or 11-6? I forget.
I moved it to 10-7.
10-7.
With a caveat of it wouldn't shock me like it would a lot of people. I'm not saying that they're going to do it. I'm saying if the Jets somehow came out with 12 wins and people were blown away, like the amazing Mets of 69, like 12 wins, how did that happen? I'm not going to sit there and say, how did it happen? I already can talk about how I could see it happening. Okay. Like if everything hit with this team, I could see it happening. I really could. I'm not predicting.
I'm with you. Yeah. So you're saying to go from a wild card team to taking the division, that's going to be next year's draft. We're going to tighten up the positions that we need to tighten up, and that's going to be the team that starts to move all the way.
If everything works out, because we might discover that we're wrong. And we might miss. Lawson might come back and the ankle's not the same. JJ might be a bust.
Yeah.
And we find out we go back into next year needing an edge.
Yeah.
Right. So
kind of edge, you seem to be hedging a lot. They could win 20 games. Oh no, they might only win like 4 games. I'm right no matter what.
No, I'm saying, I'm not saying they're going to win 4 games unless we are massacred with injuries. I think our floor is 6, and I think it would be a nightmare. But 6, and the reason, if someone said why 6, like if we got 6 wins and you were talking about it afterwards, what would the reasons be for being 6 other than injuries? It would be, it's a horrendous thought, but that Zach Wilson was awful.
It's not going to happen. He's had really good days in camp. I mean, to me, it's about the protection. With protection and targets, new targets, stronger running game. Nah. You're going to see very, at worst, decent quarterback play from him. At worst, my opinion. But you could see a very good year out of Zach, I think.
Oh, I'm definitely more to the weighted of really good year.
Yeah.
I would say I'm at the point where very small percentage he's awful.
Yeah.
A chunk that he's just takes the next step and he's okay. Game manager, okay, protects the ball like he was the last 5 games of last year, not lighting up the league or making anybody turn their head too much, but also allowing us to win games. I think there's a chunk that he's going to be better than that and take a bigger step than that and turn heads and be like, wow, and be a guy who could throw 28 to 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, 4,000 yards, and be like, wow, he's a real quarterback and, get into that top 20, be 18, 19 in the league. And I think there's a smaller chance, like a little bit left, maybe 10% chance that he's going to take a Josh Allen year 3 step in year 2 and be holy cow and be amazing and be great. I think because to me, it's all about the physical talent is there. It's just the brain.
I think you're right. You can't call those predictions. They're just, here are the chances of these things happening, but anything can really happen.
Right.
We just
Of
have to
course.
wait and see.
Yeah.
But you have a feeling for how likely these things are to happen. That's
Yeah.
all we can really have.
Yeah.
Any of us.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, it'd be very surprising if he did poorly. One thing that's interesting about what you've said with regard to free agency here
Yeah.
is there was nothing shocking or monstrous. They were helpful things for the team, especially if there are injuries. But the team is what the team is now, and you're good with that.
Yeah. I mean, I think become championship level though,
Yeah.
we might need that other safety, and I think we need the other linebacker because we understand CJ Mosley. I don't know if we're paying him. We'd have to keep him. If he doesn't renegotiate, he's like 22 million or some ridiculous number next year.
Yeah.
So we have to prepare for that. CJ Mosley will either restructure or not be a Jet next year, and I don't think it's a position of strength for us. So there are things we're going to have to do next year. I would still like to see if Ashton Davis doesn't break out. You know what I mean? Or Pinnock break out and show that they're very good, better than average safety. I think there's going to be room for improvement there. And I think there's going to be work to do in the linebacker room.
Yeah.
And we have to hope everything else hits.
And that you really do need a lot of strength coming out of younger players that aren't making that much because you can only afford so many megastars that are known to be megastars. You can really have to do it with a great system, a great coach, great teamwork, a great locker room, and, a reasonable number of great players with a lot of good players supporting them.
You got to keep bringing in new players. You got to keep drafting well. That's it's got to be next man up. That's Pittsburgh Steelers, type of football. Like a guy goes down, next man up. So, you got to build a deep team, but you got to keep replenishing. You can never get comfortable. Every year, you have to keep bringing in new talent. The draft picks have to be, smart and strategic. Yeah. That's why it's so good and so important to have a good GM.
Where the Jets are now, a lot of them are learning the system. Most key positions are learning the system. But once you get a quarterback, and some other key positions where they know the system, then the people you're bringing in, there's not that many new, right? There's new that you have to depend on, but your system's already functional. So you're not just trading out an entirely new system with entirely new bunch of guys that have to learn that system.
Yeah, and it seems like the areas where we're young, like rookies, for example, aren't the areas where we have to worry about systems. So like last year, the receivers have to know the system. So Garrett Wilson's the question mark. The difference is this year is instead of having 0 receivers that know the system, we come in with Elijah Moore, Berrios, and Corey Davis. So we come in 3 receivers that know the system. We come in with Mims, who I know had the off year, but now has studied, like last year he was learning the system, and then, now he's looking great. He's physically looks great. They're saying he's looks strong with the plays and he's doing the right things on the field. So we have guys at the wide receiver room that understand the system.
Yeah, but when you say that great teams, they're in their 5th year of the system. Their quarterbacks don't even talk about the system because
Yeah,
it's
look,
all they know. It's how they think, and the receivers, a lot of them, it's how they think.
but
That's even more powerful,
but
right?
this is a 2 year though.
I'm agreeing.
The offensive scheme is second year, it
Yeah.
explodes. Now, so what was the difference is this year it's spread out more, and it's like, okay, we have one receiver that has to learn the system.
Yeah.
At running back, we have one running back, or we're gonna have two running backs that know the system, and one that Brees Hall has to learn it. But how hard is it for a running back? Any
I'm
system?
I'm just putting the value
Yeah,
on the word no.
yeah,
You're 1 year of knowledge, right? But
yeah.
when these guys get to the point where there are years 3, 4, 5, 6 years of knowledge in a system,
Oh well,
especially the quarterback and some key receivers, that's huge. That's huge.
that's when it's easier to lose players and stay good,
Yes.
right? Like right
Yes.
now, we could win. We could win now, or next year we could win and be seriously competitive, even though we haven't peaked in that knowledge. But if we keep our players and stay healthy, we'll be okay. Years 5, 6, 7 into it, like Pittsburgh is a perfect example, right?
Yeah.
They've been doing it so long that it's much easier to just maintain and maintain and
I mean, that's
maintain.
the dream where year after year you could be a great team. You could be in the playoffs because your position players know the system. The people coming in are the only ones that have to learn it, and they're not necessarily critical to you.
Yeah,
Which is why it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Pittsburgh now.
yeah, yeah. And they got the whole linebacker room is new, but that's the position that least worries me about system.
Yeah.
It really does, especially a guy like Conklin, as far as receiving, both of them, CJ and Conklin, as far as blocking, that's not going to be an issue in my mind. I'm not worried about that. Like, it's the wide receivers, it's the quarterback, and it's the offensive lineman. Those are the three spots that could become very critical when, because, the offensive line switched to zone blocking. So we saw how complicated that can be.
Yeah.
The wide receivers, it's really complicated because they have
Really
to learn,
complicated. Yeah.
super complicated for wide receivers. And then the quarterback, my God, right? They have to be in line mentally and connected to every wide receiver. So,
Yeah. I mean, even in any scheme, it's interesting to hear like Zach talk about it, just being able to already know based on the lineup that he has to go to his second choice. like he said he kept waiting for his first look to materialize,
yeah.
even though it wasn't there. But now he's already saying, I'm not doing that anymore. You can tell by the look of the defense and first couple of steps whether you're moving on already.
How huge is that?
Yeah, huge.
I mean, it's huge. I mean, like how much time does that buy you back? So what he's saying is, I was looking at Corey Davis for a good amount of time, and that's why in those first bunch of games you never saw Elijah Moore or Keelan Cole, and they were invisible because he was looking at Corey Davis, and by the time he turns, he was being sacked or like running out of the pocket.
Yeah, and he also said he really wanted the big play. You always want the big play, so it was harder to dump it off or to even look for the dump off because he was holding on to that desire. And now he's realized he can have that desire as hard as he wants, but he's got to dump it. He's got to dump it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think we saw it start to happen in the last 5 games. And I think when he came back after that injury, the thing that was missing was talent. Like, he had no talent. I mean, we had Tariq Black and DC Montgomery playing wide receiver. I mean, it was really a brutal situation. So it's hard to judge the potential based on that. I mean, he was literally playing with a backup squad, Team B. And look, we were competitive. Even in the Buffalo game, he managed to not turn the ball over or make mistakes. So the first step to beating Buffalo is going to start at not letting them create a huge turnover margin. Then the next steps after that are going to be skill, talent, execution, and all that stuff.
But I also think that's how like the backups came in when he got injured. There were backups that had some experience, obviously. And so they knew not there, back, dump it off. It just wasn't something he was ready to do. And I think he's figured that out. So that's very exciting.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that he knows that, and he realizes that, and he feels that growth of, now I know to not look at this receiver and waste my time
Yeah.
when I see the defense line up a certain way.
Yeah.
That's
Awesome.
tremendous. That'll make all the difference.
Yeah.
And now, guess what? He's gonna have more people to dump off too, because now he's gonna have tight ends that are extremely talented, bigger
Yeah.
targets. Like just more dominant tight ends.
And Brees,
And
right?
and Brees
Yeah.
is a hell of an athlete. So
Yeah. Very explosive from what I understand.
yeah, it's going to be very nice. Very
Yeah.
nice.
So, boy, I don't know if I'm going to make it to preseason. It's a long way off. It's a long way off.
Yeah.
So
It is. Yeah, we got some time, and it's going to be an interesting training camp. There's going to be a lot of overreacting and from that in the media and in Jets world. I promise you, tons of overreacting. All I care about is one thing. It's got to be, we just have to stay healthy.
Yeah.
Like that's all the offseason is. When July starts, going through July and August, well, it's more August. Like when August starts and those guys all show up, it's all about not reading that there's an injury. That's what you're hoping every day. If there's no injury, it's a win.
I'm kind of bummed that now there's a month of nothing.
Yeah.
Pretty much nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. I mean, it's very unlikely we'll even see a signing at this point. Once it gets to this point, a lot of times you won't even see that free agent pickup, because those guys have nothing to lose at that point. They're just like,
waiting.
Let me wait and see if somebody gets hurt, and then you have to pay me more.
Yeah. And maybe we should be talking about the Mets instead. Mets and Yankees, both top of their leagues. Yeah.
Mets chaos,
Mets chaos. Yeah, and we're doing it really without great pitching. Their hitting actually is so non-Met.
Yeah.
Well,
look, they made a lot of moves. The Mets and the Yankees are the two best teams in baseball.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
The Yankees are like right now at historical.
They're killing it. Yeah.
They're like 1927 Yankees.
Yeah,
it's absolutely insane. They've won 15 out of the last 16, I believe. It's absolutely out of control.
But but the Yankees do that sometimes. The Mets do that a lot more rarely.
Yeah. It's very exciting to have a better record than the Dodgers right now. Like, that's without the two best pitchers.
Let me show you what I'm wearing. I wanted to see if you recognize this.
Oh yeah, 1988 playoffs.
Do you remember what happened in 1988 playoffs?
I went to the game.
Do you know how you went?
With your friend Mictum?
Glenn Mictum, yeah, I was supposed to go with him, and I went to the game, and it got rained out, and Mayor Koch was walking through like saying, "We're gonna play this game." It got rained out. And I bought this shirt so I'd have something. And the next day I was going on a cruise with Mom and Dad. So I gave you my ticket. What a brother.
That was great. That was a great game. They won that game.
Was that the game where they put Tar?
Jay Howell.
Yeah, Tar on the ball.
Cheat. And we were all screaming it into Glenn's ear. Cheat, pointing at him. Cheat.
I lost a very expensive dinner I had to buy him. During the season, they played like 11 times against each other or something, or 18 times. I don't know. The Mets won, maybe went 9-2 against them, or whatever it is.
Well, Mike Scioscia for them, their catcher hit a timely home run that turned the series around. It was awful.
Yeah.
But right now, the Mets are doing it without DeGrom, the best pitcher in baseball.
Yeah, the pitching isn't where it's there.
He's coming back. Scherzer's been out for over a month. I mean, their two best pitchers are gonna rejoin the team. So it's gonna be very nasty.
Yeah. It could be a very good year for New York baseball.
Yeah, very good year. It's very exciting.
All right. Well, I'm gonna go. We're renting. We sold our house. We're renting. We want to buy a house. So I'm gonna go look at a house today, right now, actually.
Oh, really? Send me the link.
I'll send you the link if it's worth it.
Okay, so it didn't like wow you that much over.
I'll send you the link after the show, and you can take a look. No. Actually, it looks like the views are wonderful. It has a sunroom that's really awesome. Because I'm saving, because I live in Vancouver, Washington, and it's 56 degrees right now. Okay, in Vancouver. They told us it'd be warm by the time it got to June, but it's not the case. Anyway, so this house is really good, except it doesn't have a guest room, and we want you and Jocelyn to visit. I want my kids to visit a lot, so it's problematic. It's a room short.
Okay,
I'm going to check it out.
Before we go, I want to acknowledge some people that were here with us. Some of them even helped me out with some background notes. Dark Soldier, Snowball, John Hepburn, Grandizer, Jets Gang. Green Bean came in and asked people to like it. Thank you for that, Green Bean. Dakota, Gitmo Bob, Mark Reese, my good friend in New Jersey, 5th grade teacher. I know a lot of 5th grade teachers now. Dom C, my Sunday night partner in crime. Thanks. Jets Orange was here. Mo Green was here and very positive today in some areas, in some respects. Iowa Jets fan is here. One of the funnier Jets guy. A guy named Matthew Snook asked if we were twins or not. But thanks to that question, it did give my brother a good laugh.
It's been asked before.
You know what? Once we hit 50, we're always going to look the same age. But when I'm in 5 or 6 years, I'll still look like this because we're lucky like that. Once we stop aging at a certain point. So why didn't we? I do have to start working out though and dieting. Jets Orange, I already said. Tony G, thanks for being here, Tony G. And anybody else I'm forgetting? I don't want to forget anybody. I think I got everybody. Gitmo Bob. Well, I almost forgot Gitmo Bob. Can you imagine? I never would have heard the end of it.
It's not that expensive to live in Vancouver. No, it's not that bad. San Diego was crazy expensive.
Yeah, but but it says, so I wish I lived where Lee lives, but it's expensive. But it depends where you're coming from. He's in Florida.
I don't know. Some parts of Florida are crazy.
They're expensive.
Yeah.
When Lee says Vancouver, it's Vancouver, Washington.
Not Canada.
15 minutes from Portland.
Yeah, maybe more like 20, maybe 30 minutes. I've been driving it. I've been doing. I did an improv show, and then I'll shut up. I did an improv show Thursday for people who have seen Avenue Q. This is Avenue P, PDX for Portland, and so we made up this entire play with puppets and a musical. We made up all the songs.
Oh my god! And
it actually went off great. And I'm in another show tonight, another improv puppet musical. So
that's cool, man.
Super excited.
Cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. I can't wait till I visit and I get to see that. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Anyway, great show. Thanks for asking me those questions and allowing me to answer them and give my thoughts. And if you would have had Dom C in here, the show would have been 4 hours. But that was fun to talk about Jets. Thanks everybody for being here. It was a great time. And I will leave you with this. Oh, yeah. Go. Amazing. That's my boy. That's my boy.
He breaks away from a sack and completes the pass for first down.
Oh, Kittle just may have made the most amazing catch.
He fights for the first down and gets out of bounds, too.
It's no good. Overtime. Oh, what a catch. How do you drop that? What are you, Jamal Adams? Touchdown.
This is a touchdown all the way.